URCD Keys is the best source for genuine Windows 10 and Office Professional product keys that work the first time, every time. Get 20% off normal prices using our discount code BST for Byte Size Tech and the link in the video description below. Remember when I said if Dr. Lisa Su was standing here, the one question I would ask her?
Remind me what that question was.
I never got a chance to tell you because we got distracted on some other nonsense.
Tech Standard Time operates outside the stream as well. It's literally, we were standing in the kitchen talking. Rogue turns around and says, should we give Ian a tour or do you want to speak for another hour? We were like, okay, let's start the tour. We didn't even get out of the kitchen and we spoke for another half an hour.
I never got to give you a proper tour. It would take me a day to give you a proper tour.
I think I've seen enough. I'm messing. Okay, no, sorry. What was the question you were going to ask Dr. Lisa Su? And if I see her tomorrow, I'll put it to her. I won't see her tomorrow, but I'll be around.
Are there any plans, or has AMD considered, tested, tried, or even spitballed the possibility of putting VRAM
Vcache
onto APUs? GDDR6. The one big thing I think is missing, I really like the 5700G. Yep. It is deeply missing onboard VRAM because DDR4 sucks.
So the problem with that, I'm using this as a pointer.
That's fine.
The problem with that is you suddenly have to create a chip with a bifurcated memory structure. And what I mean for that is, say you have an APU and you put in 2 gig of GDDR6, whether that's what they call POP, where you put it on top and you have the bridges around, or whether it's side by side like an Apple M1, you have to then decide, okay, you put in that 2 gig of GDDR6, right? Is that part of your main memory or not?
No, that's dedicated to the onboard GPU.
Then you get a situation where you have to have 2 memory controllers on your chip. One specifically for the GPU, and one specifically for the CPU that goes out to main DDR4. So that increases your die size, number 1. Also increases your power, number 2. Increases your validation costs, because you've now got a separate memory controller just for GDDR6.
But don't those already exist on the RDNA 2 cards anyway?
No, they have the IP. You still have to do the validation in silicon.
Okay.
Once you produce the chip. Then you have additional packaging costs. AMD does not do a chiplet-based CPU below $300. It has come to my attention that it is not price effective for AMD to have a chiplet-based design south of $300.
Is that why the 5600X was $299?
And the 5700G is $239? Something like that. Anyway, there's a cutoff at point at which chiplets don't make sense. Now, you could say, well, GDDR6 isn't really a chiplet. You're bringing it in from somewhere else. You're just buying it and sticking it on. Bit more complex than that.
Well, it doesn't have to be wide either. You don't have to get like 8 of them to do parallel like you do on a GPU. You just need 1.
So what's the bandwidth of 1?
I'd have to do the math.
So
I don't have it memorized.
Do you have the bandwidth of any GPU memorized? And do you know how many chips are on it? Because then we can just do the math and work out from there.
I wish I did. I don't. I did on the 10 and 20 series. I don't now. I stopped caring after a while because I discovered nobody cared. When I did the 10 series cards, I had all those numbers.
Yeah.
But what I discovered is the average person is from how many frames per second they get.
Right. So DDR4 3200 maximum peak theoretical bandwidth is 51.2 gigabytes per second. DDR5 4800 is 68.2 gigabytes per second. Even if we did faster DDR5, say 6000, we're hitting about 80 gigasec. You might be on the verge of one module of GDDR6 or GDDR5 or something along that range on like a 192-bit bus. You might be in that realm. It's the same thing with Broadwell, with that EDRAM. I said it was 50 gigabytes a second, right? That's DDR4 3200. We don't need EDRAM on modern chips because we already have DRAM at the same bandwidth.
But GDDR6 is way faster than that.
So it also takes a lot more power than that. So it's puts and takes. I have no doubt that somebody at AMD has done the math. Or maths. I would say maths because I'm British and it is plural. But at some point along the line, they have to decide what can be mass produced, what's going to come to market, what's going to be the right budget for our wafer allocation at the right time. And don't forget, this has to be done 3 years out. What's going to be the state of GDDR at the time? Would we rather use the GDDR that we buy for other elements? Is there going to be a GDDR shortage? What's the price fluctuation of GDDR? And then
do you have to buy the GDDR chip itself, or can it be printed next to the GPU cores?
No, you have to buy it
on the CPU.
No, because it's not a memory optimized process node. So same reason why the Vcache has 64 megabytes, but is on the same process node. It's because they're using an optimized version of 7 nanometer to essentially double the density of the Vcache.
Let's back up a second. Here's why I would ask the question in the first place.
Yeah.
From our lovely viewers' point of view, from the average consumer with all the troubles that have been happening in the past year, a complete lack of graphics cards. I have now tested the Ryzen 7 5700G on 35 games.
Yep. Quite nice, isn't it?
Surprisingly,
it needs more.
Well, it's surprisingly good in some areas, and it's surprisingly utter crap in others.
Yep.
And
memory bandwidth.
I was surprised at which was which, because there were games where I'm like, this is shockingly playable. This is completely functional. The Division 2 really shocked me. The Division 2 is a AAA Ubisoft game. Granted, you have to do 1080p low, not 1080p high, but it really doesn't look... Some games at 1080p low look like crap.
And unfortunately, you have to use Ubisoft.
Yeah, but it's fine. The thing is, you could totally play that game on that thing. City Skylines came out 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't require 60 frames per second, you wouldn't think.
Did it chug?
Non-functional. Completely useless.
A lot of post-processing goes on in City Skylines. It's very compute heavy.
We have 8 Zen 3 cores.
No, it's GPU compute heavy.
Right.
But you've got 8 Vega 8 cores.
Yes.
You don't have RDNA 2 yet.
It blew my mind at how utter crap it was. Now, of course, I did try Cyberpunk, and 1080p, minimum detail, 50% render resolution, completely non-functional. But you're not shocked there.
Just to point out Ryan Dietz's, the EDRAM had significantly lower latency than system RAM, though. Only half. It was only half. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
I'm looking for a solution to people who aren't going to get their APUs bought out by miners so that they can upgrade their freaking computers and at least play games at 1080p, because even if it's expensive, let's say for the sake of discussion, you talk about price. Let's say AMD came out tomorrow with a Ryzen 7 6700G with RDNA 2 and GDDR6 on die.
2 gig. 2 gig?
It has to be 4. It has to be 4. Nothing's functional at 2. So put 4 gigs of RAM on there with 8 Zen 3 cores, and let's say they charge $600 for it. Now, typically, an APU for $600 for an 8-core chip sounds ludicrous. But when you put it next to graphics card prices, it isn't anymore. When 6700 XTs are going for $1,000.
One would argue that AMD doing that they'd gain market share if you include it in graphics sales, but they'd also usurp their own sales and drive the prices of their own GPUs down. With the prices of GPUs high...
Why would they drive the prices of GPUs down?
Or ultimately maximum revenue. Average selling price of a GPU in that context would decrease, because users who might have spent $700 or $800 on a discrete are now spending $600 on an integrated.
Do you believe current graphics card prices have anything to do with consumer gaming demand?
It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, AMD will look at total units sold. Market share at this point doesn't matter. Revenue, average selling price. And Intel and AMD are the same in this, and NVIDIA. What they'll look at is units and average selling price. If they can sell more units at higher price, revenue goes up. A lot of Intel's business of late, if you look on the CPU side, with education being one of the major topics inside the pandemic, their ASPs for laptops went down, ASP being average selling price, because they were selling a lot of entry-level CPUs into that space. And they were committed by contract to producing those CPUs. If you listen to the financial investors, they would prefer every chip that Intel sold would be, a high-end one. But on the contrary, if you look at Apple raises prices every generation of new hardware because it means that their ASPs keep going up regardless. And now we're speaking into what's right for the consumer versus what's right for the company versus what's right on the financial markets.
Is there ever an argument that doing something for the favor of the consumers buys brand equity?
In this market right now, no. It may be in an unconstrained market, probably.
I am going to put a poll in chat to see what you guys think. It's Princess Peach.
Sorry, I've cut my hair and I've got a British accent now.
Okay. I think you're taller. You're sitting up taller.
He is taller.
I'm taller than...
It's taller in this region.
Oh, shut up.
I'm guessing though. You did mention I was coming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Do you know who I am?
Tech potato.
Thank you. You know more than most of my audience.
If they pushed out a high-performance APU to provide a solid...
You know how your father goes on and on and on? It's been my job to stop him. He's getting very mad. You can see the cogs. If you write that, that makes you a shill.
What?
How's your shill money?
I need more show money.
Your question is too long.
Oh.
Question is too long.
Oh.
Not only does he go on and on when he speaks, his questions go on and on and on. That's what that means.
You realize that more than once, first of all, I never have enough space on Twitter to type 280 characters is enough. And second of all, I often breach the 5,000 character YouTube description limit.
That's because you give people too many deals.
I'm so sorry. That's just horrible of me. So now I posted a question in chat. We'll see what everybody says. URCD Keys is the best source for genuine Windows 10 and Office Professional product keys that work the first time, every time. Get 20% off normal prices using our discount code BST for Byte Size Tech and the link in the video description below. $15 gets you a Windows 10 Professional OEM key that is a real product key, activates directly with Microsoft, use it forever as it links to your Microsoft account and it works through reinstalls. Get a full copy of Office 2019 Professional Plus for about $50 that redeems at setup.office.com using your Microsoft account. It also works forever through reinstalls. We have been using URCD keys for almost 3 years now and recommend you do so as well.